I head up the performance measurement and risk analytics team for Kleinworth Benson Investors. We're an asset management firm based on Dawson Street in Dublin, and we're currently managing in the order of €5 billion worth of assets, primarily domestic, but an increasing proportion of those monies managed for international clients both in North America and Asia. I'm a CFA charter holder since 2004. I have some involvement in the GIPS governance process through membership of the Interpretations Subcommittee. And peripheral to that, I'm an independent consultant to the CIPM program, which is the globally recognized performance measurement qualification. And part of that consultancy requires me to frame the examination process, specifically where GIPS is tested within the program. I would view the GIPS standards as a template as to how to do the job properly. It's a very attractive proposition for any asset management firm to contend that they do the job right, and adherence to an internationally accepted standard such as GIPS allows that to happen. When a prospective client comes to any compliant firm and requests a return record for a strategy, they know that they will receive a performance record that captures all the portfolios managed within that strategy. No cherry picking, no survivorship bias. What you see is what you get, the full record of the firm's capability in managing these monies. And yet it goes beyond even that, because the client, or rather the prospective client, is comforted by the fact that they can see the full dispersion of returns within the strategy. There is no hiding place for the manager. The manager's processes are laid bare, and the prospective client can see whether the return experience is delivered to all the portfolios within the strategy. There's over 80 pages in these standards, and a multiple of that between guidance statements and question and answers database. The real devil within this standard is in the detail. There are 1,000 ways to fall out of compliance and only one way to be in compliance. Well, as I see it, a compliant firm falls into a small subset of asset management firms domestically and globally. There are few enough firms that can claim compliance with the standards, and fewer still who will expend the time, effort and money required to independently verify that claim. Compliance typically, and I would say particularly when you go overseas, compliance is expected. It is a requirement of many large institutional investors in North America and Asia. If you're not in, you just can't win. You will get very little hearing from a large institutional client overseas if you're not in a position to claim compliance. It's a tough business out there within the asset management industry. We're expected to perform at a very high level. We're certainly competing against hundreds, if not thousands, of asset managers internationally. The return, the investment return achieved for the strategy is obviously one differentiating factor that must be taken into account when prospective clients are looking out into the industry to decide on who to appoint next for the mandate. But another differentiating factor is a GIPS compliance claim. Actually, no. The standards recommend that firms claiming compliance should also be verified, but it's not a requirement at the moment. Now, that said, there has been a recent change in the standards effective from January 1st of this year, that firms claiming compliance should also disclose to their prospective client base that whether they are verified or not. In my opinion, that will lead to increased business by the independent verification firms, if for no other reason that marketing departments will likely shy away from having to make that negative statement about their lack of verification. Oh, I'd love to say yes, but the answer really is no. We have quite a number of firms in Dublin claiming compliance and being independently verified to be such. Typically, those firms are active in international markets and see the requirement for that compliance as a demand from their prospective client base. Some of the domestic firms where their new business efforts are orientated domestically, you're not likely to see compliance pushed through there. Well, actually, far from it. Ireland has a special place in the history of GIPS. Back in May 2001, Ireland was the very first country to endorse the GIPS standards, and that was recognised at the first IPC meeting, the IPC being the governance body of GIPS at that point in time, in Los Angeles, as I say, in May 2001. Ireland has typically punched above its weight, actually, within the governance structure. I myself, as mentioned earlier, am a member of the Interpretations Subcommittee for the standards. That's kind of the heavy lifting group within the governance structure, in that the subcommittee is responsible for the framing of the guidance to the standards and offering advice to the global investment industry as to how to best comply with the standards. A peer of mine in the Dublin community, Joe O'Donnell of AIB Investment Managers, is himself a member of the Investment Management Subcommittee. And that subcommittee acts as a forum for investment management firms to discuss compliance issues to the standards. This is an evolving standard. There is quite frequent releases of guidance statements into the public marketplace. One such recent release touches upon alternative investments, which is quite a significant development for the standards. The standards themselves have had significant traction in the institutional, long-only asset management industry, but less so within the hedge fund space. That said, hedge funds have become increasingly interested in this standard, and this recent guidance that has been issued for public comment is to some extent a reaction to that. Hedge funds are now actively looking at the GIPS standards as a must-have. I would proposition that part of that demand is being driven by scandals within the hedge fund marketplace over recent years. I'm thinking specifically here about the Madoff scandal, but there are a number of others as well. The GIPS standards are an ethical standard at its core, and I think as a standard for hedge funds has its attractions in that we would believe that it will offer some degree of investor confidence in the track record for hedge funds moving forward.